Welcome to A Hunter's Guide. This week we cover All Hallows Eve, the background, the different traditions, the lore behind it. But to begin this year's Halloween is not only on a weekend, not only on a full moon, but it's also on a time change at dead hour. That means dead hours is extended an extra hour and will be supercharged for the entire thing. So if you haven't made plans, take advantage and practice some spell work, but also be extra safe out there. Now, before we get into it, it is just me today, so we'll make up for that next week, I promise. I spent most of my week just working, really tired of doing acrobatics in the ceilings that barely have any room for a cat. You can't see where it's safe to step. You're covered in layers of dust and insulation, and one wrong movement means a fall through the ceiling. And I spent Friday night actually drunk off my ass, and I actually face planted, and everyone were convinced I broke my nose. But, you know, all the fake blood turned out to all just be fake. And then I realize this will be coming out after Halloween, so I am planning on doing a few spells and am going to go on a slight hunt in the middle of the week, or in the middle of the night during dead hour. So hopefully I'll pick up some interesting things. Maybe I'll have a new story to talk about then. But we'll get into that all next week when I have my partner back with me. So let's just jump into it. Halloween originates with the festival of Samhain among the Celts of ancient Britain and Ireland. On contemporary calendars, what we call November 1st marked the beginning of the new year. That date was considered the beginning of the winter period, the date on which the herds were returned from pasture and lands were renewed. During the Samhain festival, the souls of those who had died were believed to return to visit their homes, and those who had died during the year were believed to journey to the otherworld. People set bonfires on hilltops for relighting their hearth fires for the winter and to frighten away evil spirits, and they sometimes wore masks and other disguises to avoid being recognized by the ghosts thought to be present. It was in those ways that beings such as witches, hobgoblins, fairies, and demons came to be associated with the day itself. The period was also thought to be favorable for divination on matters such as marriage, health, and death. When the Romans conquered the Celts in the 1st century CE, they added their own festivals of Veralia, commemorating the passing of the dead, and of Pomona, the goddess of the harvest. In the 7th century CE, Pope Boniface IV established All Saints' Day, originally on May 13th, and in the following century, in an effort to supplant the pagan holiday with a Christian observance, it was moved to November 1st. The evening before All Saints' Day became a holy or hallowed eve, and thus Halloween was born. By the end of the Middle Ages, the secular and the sacred days had merged. The Reformation essentially put an end to the religious holiday among Protestants, although in Britain especially, Halloween continued to be celebrated as a secular holiday. Along with other festivities, the celebration of Halloween was largely forbidden among the early American colonists, although in the 1800s they developed festivals that marked the harvest and incorporated elements of Halloween. When large numbers of immigrants, including the Irish, went to the United States beginning in the mid-19th century, they took their Halloween customs with them. In the 20th century, Halloween became one of the principal U.S. holidays, particularly among children, mostly for the free candy. Let's be real. As a secular holiday, Halloween has come to be associated with a number of activities. One is the practice of pulling usually harmless pranks. Celebrants wear masks and costumes for parties and for trick-or-treating, thought to have a derived from the British practice of allowing the poor to beg for food, called soul cakes. Trick-or-treaters go from house to house with the threat that they will pull a trick if they do not receive treat, usually candy. Halloween parties often included games such as bobbing for apples, perhaps derived from Roman celebration of Pomona. Along with skeletons and black cats, the holiday has incorporated scary beings such as ghosts, witches, and vampires into the celebration. Another symbol is the jack-o'-lantern, a hollowed-out pumpkin, originally a turnip carved into a demonic face, and it was lit with a candle, such to scare away spirits. Since the mid-20th century, the United Nations Children Fund has attempted to make the collection of money for its programs a part of Halloween, but ain't nobody got time for that. Now I have 12 Halloween or similar holiday celebrations around the world. We have Austria. They have a pumpkin festival in Retzerland called Kürbisfest im Retzerland. On November 11th, Austria celebrates Martini, which includes costumes and a lantern procession. Some people in Austria believe that if they leave bread, water, and a lighted lamp out, dead souls will be welcomed back to Earth for that night. In Belgium, some villagers celebrate Halloween while other villagers focus on celebrating All Saints' Day. On Halloween night, a Belgian may be found lighting a candle in memory of a dead relative. In Canada, the Halloween celebration began with Scottish and Irish immigrants who arrived in the 1800s. Canada actively celebrates Halloween each year on October 31st with decorations, costume parties, and trick-or-treating, as we all should. China has a different thing. Halloween was introduced in China through foreigners such as teachers and expats. In places that have many expats, there will usually be Halloween decor. The more popular days of the dead are celebrated in festivals such as the Hungry Ghost Festival, the Qingming Festival, the Double Ninth Festival, and the Spring Festival. You gotta love China for their festivals. England, the trick-or-treat custom originated in England known as Mischief Night, whereas we in the U.S. carve pumpkins. English children would carve designs out of large beets, which were known as punkies. It's pretty dope. I love the name punkies for that. For France, as Halloween is not really a French holiday, there is some controversy pertaining to October 31st festivities. This holiday is a new trend for some of the French, and they celebrate with costume parties and dressing in scary outfits. For Germany, Halloween Aufstiche became popular in the 1990s. People start to decorate around mid-October and use Halloween as a party theme. On November 11th, Germans celebrate Martinstag, which includes costumes and a lantern procession. For Hong Kong, Halloween in Hong Kong has become increasingly popular in recent years. Hong Kong uses Halloween to commercialize its theme parks such as Disneyland and Ocean Park. Hong Kong residents also decorate their shopping centers to reflect the spooky atmosphere. For Ireland, Halloween is considered to have originated here. There are many similarities between how Halloween is celebrated in Ireland and the U.S., yet the Irish still have unique traditions. Apart from trick-or-treating, children also play a trick known as knock-a-dolly, which involves children knocking on their neighbors' doors and running away before they answer them. Additionally, the Irish play a card game on Halloween whereby kids will choose a card and receive whatever prize is indicated on it. The Irish traditionally eat a fruitcake called barnbrack on this day. Barnbrack has a treat baked inside the cake, and depending on which treat is inside, will foretell the future of whoever receives it. For Japan, Halloween in Japan became popular when Tokyo Disneyland and Universal Studios Japan began to promote Halloween celebrations. In 2000, Tokyo Disneyland had its first Halloween event, which has grown tremendously in popularity. The Japanese currently enjoy celebrating with decorations and dressing up in costumes. For South Korea, Halloween is not celebrated in Korea. However, Korea has a harvest festival called Chuseok which is pretty much Korean Thanksgiving Day. During Chuseok, Koreans visit the places where their ancestors used to live and feast on traditional Korean food. For Latin American, Mexican, or Spain, Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, very popular, very well known, I think, for the most part, is a popular celebration in these regions. The belief is that on October 31st, spirits visit their families and then depart again on November 2nd. The families set up decorations and food for the arrival of the spirits. This time period represents a celebration of death as opposed to mourning. Now, I remember when I lived in Sweden, I was informed by my cousins and my uncle that they don't celebrate Halloween, and they knew I'm very passionate about it. So they told me that if I was still living there during Halloween, that we can try our best to do something at the house, but they had to also warn me that nobody else celebrates it in the area, at least, which broke my fucking heart. I'm really glad I'm not still in Sweden, although at times I do wish I was. It's a kind of hit or miss kind of thing, I guess. So October 31st is when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest. We celebrate this day for the cycle of life and death. In the northern hemisphere, where the traditions began, the earth is dying and preparing for winter, while in the southern hemisphere, the earth is blooming and preparing for summer. Lots of people like to try and take advantage of this thin veil to play in a Ouija board. A Ouija is not a game. You're not likely to get a loved one or a Casper spirit, especially on Halloween. You'll likely get a demon or something just as bad. And who knows what they'll bring with them. So when it comes down to it, just don't ever play a Ouija board. If you have a professional, then I guess give it a shot, but take the proper precautions. Remember to always say goodbye and burn the board afterwards. Do not keep that board. It is now tainted. Dark magic is widely associated with All Hallows Eve. That doesn't mean you should be trying any of it. Don't go out doing a summoning or curses or whatever. Black magic always bites the caster as well. So even though Halloween is so associated with dark and gloomy and just curses and whatnot, that does not mean you have to do that. There is white magic that is just as powerful during this time. Go and practice that. Or green magic, love magic, all kinds of magic. There's so many different kinds. I don't ever recommend doing blood or black magic. It's just so tainting. It'll always ruin you in some way or come back and hurt you 2 times harder than you sent out, if you get what I mean. So just avoid it altogether if you can. Halloween gets its dark rep from Hollywood and Catholic Protestants. It was never meant to be evil in any way, but with all the negative association, it has become one of the most dangerous days with magic and the occult. Especially the occult. Satanists will use it to their advantage every chance they get. I struggle to find any true horrors involving Halloween that don't focus heavily on God or child-abusing sex cults or the basic razor blade and drug myth in candy. I say myth, there's a couple cases I know, but nobody's gonna put razor blades in candy unless they're mentally fucked up, aiming for their specific child. And yes, that is a case where with the razor blade, they were literally going for a specific child. They are not just handing them out randomly. That's someone who's going to go around shooting people more likely. And when it comes to drugs, who's giving away free drugs? No one. Especially not to kids who can't even appreciate them or have a good trip, I guess. I don't know. Just, I've never understood why people think drugs are going to be in kids' candy. But that doesn't mean I didn't find anything. That doesn't, I'm bringing something to the table. This week I'm going to cover the Headless Horsemen. The legend of the Headless Horsemen in American lore begins in Sleepy Hollow, New York, during the American Revolutionary War. Traditional folklore holds that the horseman was a Haitian trooper who was killed during the Battle of White Plains in 1776. He was decapitated by an American cannonball, and the shattered remains of his head were left on the battlefield while his comrades hastily carried his body away. Eventually, they buried him in the cemetery of the Old Dutch Church of Sleepy Hollow. From this, he rises as a malevolent ghost, furiously seeking his lost head and wielding a jack-o'-lantern as a temporary replacement and or weapon. Modern versions of the story refer to his rides to Halloween, around which time the battle took place. In Irish folklore, the Dullahan, or Dark Man, is a headless demonic fairy, usually riding a horse and carrying his head under his arm. He wields a whip made from a human corpse's spine. When the Dullahan stops riding, a death occurs. The Dullahan calls out a name, at which point the named person immediately dies. In another version, he is the headless driver of a black carriage. The Coist Bodhar, a similar figure, the Gan Xian, without a head, otherwise known, can be frightened away by wearing a gold object or putting one in his path. I don't know why gold would scare him off. You'd think he would just rob you. In Scottish tales, the Headless Horseman concerns a man named Ewan who was decapitated in a clan battle at Glen Cainir on the Isle of Mull. The battle denied him any chance to be a chieftain, and both he and his horse are headless in accounts of his haunting of the area. God, that's gotta be intense for a horse to also be haunting you. Without a head as well. That's interesting. The Headless Horseman has been a story told for ages. I honestly loved the portrayal in Sleepy Hollow and He's a wild fae or ghost that nobody really knows much about. He won't die. He won't rest, not until he has his head. And while it's said that he kills here and there, he's kind of come off more as an omen, in my opinion. Sure, he's scary, but the man just wants to be whole again. If he comes after you, you can treat him as a ghost and find his body, salt and burn it. Put some salt around you as a protective barrier. Use iron weapons. Put some shields and wards up. Help him find his head to let him rest. I mean, if it's a ghost, there's the basics, but he is clearly a little bit more powerful, so you're going to have to get a little bit lucky. He's probably going to be able to control wind to an extent to where if you do put a salt circle around you, he can kind of blow it away. He's not really portrayed much as someone who goes inside of places, or there's a lot of lore where if you cross a certain bridge, he will stop following you. So your best bet is get somewhere where his horse won't follow you. But if it's a Dullahan, it's a bit different. The origins of the Dullahan are not known for certain, but he is thought to be an embodiment of an ancient Celtic god, Crom Dubh, or Black Crom. Crom Dubh was worshipped by the prehistoric king Tigernmas, who ruled in Ireland about 1500 years ago, and who legitimized human sacrifice to the heathen idols. Being a fertility god, Crom demanded humans live each year, or demanded human lives each year. That's a very different sentence. The most favored method of sacrifice being decapitation. The worship of Crom continued in Ireland until the 6th century, when Christian missionaries arrived from Scotland. They denounced all such worship, and under their influence, the old sacrificial religions of Ireland began to lose favor. Nonetheless, Crom Dubh was not to be denied his annual quota of souls, and took on a physical form which became known as the Dullahan, or Far Doraka, meaning dark man, the tangible embodiment of death. Around midnight on certain Irish festivals or feast days, this wild and black-robed horseman may be observed riding a dark and snorting steed across the countryside. Dullahans are headless, and wherever one stops, a mortal's death soon follows. A Dullahan will stop its snorting horse before the door of a house and shout the name of the person about to die, drawing forth the soul at the call. He may also stop at the very spot where a person will die. W.J. Fitzpatrick, a storyteller from the Mourne Mountains in Country Down, recounts, "I seen the Dullahan myself, stopping on the brow of the hill between Bryansford and Moneyscalp late one evening. Just as the sun was setting, it was completely headless, but it held up its own head in its hand, and I heard it call out a name. I put my hand across my ears in case the name was my own, so I couldn't hear what it said. When I looked again, it was gone, but shortly afterwards there was a bad car accident on that very hill, and a young man was killed. It had been his name that the Dullahan was calling. Those who watch from their windows to see him pass are rewarded for their pains by having a basin of blood thrown in their faces, or by being struck blind in one eye. The abilities of a Dullahan. This fairy has a limited power of speech. Its disembodied head is permitted to speak just once on each journey it undertakes, and then has only the ability to call the name of the person whose death it heralds. The Dullahan is possessed by supernatural sight. By holding its severed head aloft, he can see for vast distances across the countryside, even on the darkest night. Using this power, he can spy the house of a dying person, no matter where it is. The appearance of the Dullahan has obviously it has no head upon its shoulders. He carries it with him, either on the saddle brow of his horse or upraised in his right hand. The head is the color and texture of a stale dough or moldy cheese, and is quite smooth. A hideous, idiotic grin splits the face from ear to ear, and the eyes, which are small and black, dart about like malignant flies. The entire head glows with the phosphorescence of decaying matter, and the creature may use it as a lantern to guide its way along the darkened landways of the Irish countryside. That would be so weird, using your own head as a lamp. Couldn't even imagine. Also, how would you... Oh my god. If he sees with the head and he's riding the horse and it's on his side, is he just kind of feeling for it? I guess... In the horse does most of the driving. She, I guess, guides it a little bit. And I guess that would be the most realistic, where the horse is the one driving entirely. The guy is just kind of telling it which direction to go. I don't know. It's just a really weird concept. So, the Dullahan's mount, the horse. The Dullahan is usually mounted on a black steed, which thunders through the night. He uses a human spine as a whip. The horse sends out sparks and flames from its nostrils as it charges forth. In some parts of the country, such as Country Tyrone, and the Dullahan drives a black coach known as the coach of Bower, from the Irish coist bodhar, meaning deaf or silent coach. This is drawn by 6 black horses and travels so fast that the friction created by its movements often sets on fire the bushes along the sides of the road. All gates fly open to let the rider and coach through, no matter how firmly they are locked. So no one is truly safe from the attentions of this fairy. But there are countermeasures. On nights of Irish feast days, it is advised to stay at home with the curtains drawn, particularly around the end of August or early September, when the festival of Clondub reputedly took place. If you have to be abroad at this time, be sure to keep some gold object close on to hand, as an artifact made of gold may frighten him away, for Dullahans appear to have an irrational fear of this precious metal. Even a small amount of gold may suffice to drive them off, as the following account from Country Galloway relates. A man was on his way home one night between Roadstone and Gallyconneely. It was just getting dark, and all of a sudden he heard the sound of horses' hoofs pounding along the road behind him. Looking around, he saw the Dullahan on his charger, hurtling towards him at a fair speed. With a loud shout, he made to run, but the thing came on after him, gaining on him. He started running after him, he started gaining on him in a matter of good time, honestly. In truth, it would have overtaken him and carried him away had he not dropped a gold-headed pin from the fold of his shirt on the road behind him. There was a roar in the air above him, and when he looked again, the Dullahan was gone. However, there is no guaranteed defense against the Dullahan because he is Death's herald. So keep that in mind. You might be able to keep him back, but that doesn't mean you are safe. He will come for you because he is working directly with Death. I'm trying to think what other Fae are known for death. We'll get into that in another story, though. That's pretty much all I got for this week. I know that was a really short one. It's usually much longer with my partner here. Stay safe out there. I hope your Halloween is fun and exciting. Take advantage of that magical energy boost. Find us on Instagram at a.hunters.guide. Send in some stories, suggestions, and questions. Catch you next week when we cover our next horror. Happy Halloween. Hunters, signing out.